I was thinking about how people sometimes perceive political reporters and like how completely different my life is. It's more hanging out in Salem, talking about policies, just very much not meeting in dark parking lots.
OPB reporter Lauren Dake is very familiar with the reality of reporting on Oregon politics. She covered her first legislative session in 2011 when she worked at the Bend Bulletin.
The state was facing a $3.1 billion budget hole, and so we really wanted intense coverage, and there were like 10 Oregonian reporters who worked down there. There was several Statesman Journal reporters, OPB, TV stations, Register Guard. There was just like this whole press corps when I first started. And yeah, it's dwindled quite a bit since then. And things have just changed a lot.
One of the things that was changing 15 years ago was the timing of legislative sessions. The legislature now meets annually rather than every other year. That started after lawmakers referred a measure to the Oregon ballot that voters later approved, creating the system we have now. In odd-numbered years, the legislature meets for about 5 months for what's known as the regular session. And in even-numbered years, they have a short session that cannot last longer than 35 days. The first short session was in 2012.
The idea behind short sessions historically was really for technical fixes or like budget fixes because, okay, we're a bigger state, the budget is more in flux, like we need annual sessions to make these fixes.
Lauren says that idea has pretty much gone out the window.
This session, there's a lot of significant policy being worked. I mean, they're trying to prevent ICE agents from wearing masks. They're trying to make sure that when ICE agents show up on schools, there's clear policies of what needs to happen. They're working the Blazer bill. There's transportation budget issues being worked. It's been very busy. This session's actually been really fun because we are all back into the building together.
From the Gert Boyle studio, I'm Jen Chavez, and this is The Evergreen, a podcast from OPB about the place you call home. The Oregon Capitol building has been under construction for the past 3 years, and the building has only been partially open during that time. OPB and the rest of the press corps had makeshift offices on the nearby Willamette University campus. And before the construction project, there was the COVID-19 pandemic when pretty much everything was virtual. So the short legislative session that just wrapped up was the first time that lawmakers, lobbyists, the public, and the press have all worked in one place together in quite some time. Evergreen producer Julie Sabatier tagged along with Lauren for a day to hear what that was like.
1 minute countdown.
Okay.
There it is.
It's a Wednesday morning, and Lauren and I are pulled over in a parking lot between Portland and Salem.
Session 1, August, where's the date? Oh, okay. So I'm looking for 7/20 right here. It truly is going to be like the most high pressure part of my day.
And Lauren has a long day ahead of her, talking to lobbyists and lawmakers, tuning into legislative hearings, gathering information on multiple stories. Our jobs are pretty different, but what she's dealing with right now is something I'm intimately familiar with.
Oh my God, I got it.
Yes. It's not even springtime yet, but working parents everywhere are signing up for summer camps. And some of those spots go so fast, you have to snag them right when the registration opens. 1 week of camp booked.
1 week down. Many weeks left. How many weeks?
Don't count. With her daughter's spot in a July art camp secured, we got back on the road. When we got there, we actually found a parking space pretty close to the building. The front entrance is still closed because of an ongoing construction project. So we went through security in the back of the building and headed to the newly reopened Capitol basement.
Okay, so yeah, this is a lobby center, so all the lobbyists And this is the Peter Wong press offices. Welcome. New paint, fresh carpet. There's a nice picture here of a cartoon picture of Peter Wong himself, a longtime Statesman Journal reporter. The First Amendment to the United States Constitution painted here on the wall.
And there's a nice little kitchenette.
And then you get to our new offices. This is where the Capitol Chronicle is, the Oregonian, and OPB.
The new space is really nice. And despite there being fewer reporters than there once were, the whole building just felt alive with activity. We were there at the end of February with less than 2 weeks to go before the end of the short session. There's a brand new cafe in the basement. That's where I met Cassie Wilson.
And I'm the legislative manager for 1,000 Friends of Oregon.
And what brings you to the Capitol on this particular day?
Today, we are talking to legislators about some land use bills that we're really concerned about this session as session comes to a close and things move very quickly and chaotically.
How would you sort of characterize this session?
Yeah, I mean, this is only my third session being deeply involved, so second short session, and I mean, from everyone I've talked to and everything I've felt, like, it seems like it is one of the most overwhelming short sessions we've ever had, and that there are just a lot of really, really big issues that we are trying to tackle in way too short of a time.
And how has, being back in the building this session, how has that changed the way you do your job?
I mean, it's actually been really nice to be back in the building this session since things are really opened up now. I mean, just the fact that there's food in the building again is really a game changer. And it's just fun to get to see more of the Capitol because I actually had never been in the building before construction started. And so it's been cool to get to see some of the historic parts.
What's your favorite historic part that you've seen?
I think getting to see the rotunda for the first time was pretty. It was kind of a magical little moment of just oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like when you walk into the Capitol, not just a really busy hallway.
The Capitol Rotunda is pretty spectacular. It's this grand, echoey space with the seal of Oregon in the middle of the floor and historic murals on the walls. Sunlight streams in through the tall front windows, and the inside of the Capitol dome is ornately decorated with gold stars. There are 33 stars because Oregon was the 33rd state. Lauren and I didn't spend a whole lot of time there, but we did go through it on our way to the marble steps that lead to the House and Senate chambers.
Yeah, let's go to the Senate. Okay. Watch these steps here.
Yep. Before we went into the Senate chamber, Lauren gave me the backstory on one of the bills she's been following this session. A big part of her job is being a watchdog for state agencies, and the Department of Human Services is one of the ones she watches most closely.
It gets a lot of taxpayer dollars, and it takes care of a lot of really vulnerable populations. Plus, the state's Department of Human Services agency has struggled for so long that there just feels like there's a never-ending amount of stories to dig into.
Several years ago, DHS got sued after OPB reported that the agency was placing foster kids in hotels. So they had to stop doing that. But for a while, it wasn't exactly clear where these kids were going.
OPB found out that they were sending kids to these facilities out of state. It became a very long and ongoing story, many stories. There was all these really horrific stories of pretty widespread abuse. Kids who were in this facility in Utah, and they were placed with a lot of kids who had history with the juvenile justice department from other states. So they were basically kids from foster care in Oregon were placed in the same facility with kids who had committed crimes in other states. So we were sort of treating foster care kids like criminals.
Oregon State Senator Sarah Gelser-Bluen, a Democrat from Corvallis, introduced legislation in 2020 to create some standards for using out-of-state foster care facilities. And basically, it said,
we can send kids to facilities out of state, but somebody from Oregon needs to go there and needs to certify it, needs to ensure that those facilities meet the same standards as facilities here in this state.
Now, 6 years later, that law is having some unintended consequences for a kid who is currently in state custody.
He's a 9-year-old boy. He's in a facility here in Oregon. His grandparents live in North Carolina. They want to take care of him. But the state has said that they can't send him out of state because there are laws preventing Oregon's Department of Human Services from sending kids to facilities out of state.
This child's grandparents say the department told them they needed to get certified as a therapeutic foster home. But when they did that, it triggered the law to treat their home like an out-of-state institution. They have appealed to Senator Gelser-Bluen, and she has been very focused on finding a solution and, if necessary, changing the law. With all that in mind, we went to talk to her. The Senate was in session, so we had to stay off the floor and sit quietly on the side aisle. Lauren sent a quick text to the senator, and she came over to talk with us.
So that family contacted me last August, and I was really confused, which is why I immediately said, okay, let's fix it. Let's, whatever it takes to get it clear. So we have a bill that just says this does not apply to children in family foster care, pre-adoptive placements in other states.
And do you think are you feeling confident that that's gonna do it?
I hope so. There also are so many places where the department chooses to do something differently. I don't understand in this one why that's happening, or some of the other decisions that have been made for this child that the grandparents have described that just kind of point to inappropriate placement for this youth or being in a highly restrictive environment. I've got to vote really quick. 1 second.
Hi.
So I don't understand why that flexibility, why there wasn't any flexibility in that space for them.
She paused for a moment there to vote yes on a bill by shouting "aye" from the side aisle when her name was called. That bill was unrelated to what we were talking about. The bill that includes changes that will hopefully allow the 9-year-old in foster care to be with his grandparents outside the state of Oregon ended up passing in both chambers, and it's currently awaiting the governor's signature.
Coming up after a break, we'll hear why one former lawmaker thinks the Capitol is a lot like a high school. Thanks for listening to The Evergreen, our podcast from OPB about the place you call home. If you like what you hear, go ahead and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, and we'll brighten your Monday morning a little bit with something new and exciting to listen to each week. And if you are enjoying this episode from the Oregon Capitol, I highly recommend you check out the OPB Politics Now podcast, where Lauren and the rest of the politics team discuss what's going on in local government, from Salem to Portland City Hall. And remember, all our podcasts are made possible by the support of many thousands of OPB members. Support our journalism by becoming an OPB sustaining member today at opb.org/pod. And now, back to Julie and Lauren at the Oregon State Capitol.
Before we left the chamber, Lauren and I chatted with another senator, Mike McLean. He's a Republican representing parts of Central and Eastern Oregon. Lauren wanted to ask him about a bill that would prohibit a president from deploying another state's National Guard to Oregon for law enforcement or immigration enforcement purposes without the Oregon governor's permission. Senator McLean has served in the National Guard himself for over 2 decades. He has some concerns about the bill, which was introduced by Democrats and passed the House in a party-line vote.
Why create a partisan perception of our National Guard? We're not partisan. We are not political. We're training for the missions to protect this country and available for state missions to protect our state. Politics should not be involved.
Just a quick note, this bill did not end up passing the Senate before the end of the session.
Have you seen the governor this session at all?
No, I have not seen the governor, but looking forward to her next invitation to meet.
Senator Mike McLean served as House Republican leader with then Speaker of the House, Tina Kotek, now governor, and I have a very vivid memory of the two of them playing Papa-Shot in the House side. But no Papa-Shot this session.
No Papa-Shot. We also she had in her office these Rock'em Sock'em robots. One was blue, one was red. And on occasion, I'd just say, look, let's settle this with the robots. And so we would play Rock'em Sock'em robots. The problem was she rigged it because the red robot's head would always pop. And I would go, this is totally rigged. She's not that good. And then she would go, well, it's settled. And now, they also had more votes than us, so I think that's probably more relevant. But one of these days, I want somebody to go through that in a forensic analysis to determine how she rigged that game.
Having more than a decade of experience covering the Oregon legislature means Lauren can also remember a time when things seemed a lot less partisan.
I covered one session that was the House was split 30-30. So there were 30 Democrats and 30 Republicans. There was a co-speaker. So Republican Bruce Hanna from Roseburg was the Speaker of the House at the time. And Arnie Roblin, a Democrat from the coast, was the Democratic Speaker. And what a different era compared to today of such partisan political divide that we're seeing. Back then, they shared committees. Everything was negotiated. There was no bill readings. There were no walkouts. Very different.
The Oregon legislature is what's known as a citizens' assembly because most lawmakers have other jobs outside their work in the Capitol building. And since the legislature only meets at certain times, they also have to find staffers who are willing to work part-time. Sometimes that means they hire their own family members. When Lauren and I were in the House chamber, we chatted with Reagan Knope. He's currently the chief of staff for Representative Vicki Breeze Iverson, a Republican from Prineville. He has some pretty early memories of being in the Capitol.
I started when I was a kid, but I wasn't working here. My dad was a state representative, and I was running around as a kid. And I would slide down the banisters outside of all of the marble stairs, and usually wouldn't get in trouble. And then I came back to work in the building 2013 when he came in to the Senate, and I worked for him.
How old were you in 2013 when the first year?
I would have been 16 or 17, and now I'm 30. This is the only skill set that I have. I probably can't get a real job. And so that's the only reason that I'm still here. But I think you still have some, I think a little bit less of members employing their family, but you still have some of that. And it's just kind of a cultural thing that's been around the Capitol, and it's been, it's been bipartisan. It's not a partisan thing either.
After we talked for a bit, Reagan leaned over and quietly asked Lauren if he could talk to her off the record. So I turned my recorder off. Lauren explained later that a lot of her job involves off-the-record conversations. She used an example of a conversation she recently had with a lobbyist.
And he launched into everything that was sort of happening behind the scenes here right now, and his take on how the governor is doing, for example, and her staff. And those are just things that he could never say to me on the record because it would blow up his career. So that's just part of the dynamic here.
I definitely saw a lot of skeptical looks as I was walking around the building with my microphone and recorder all day. Luckily, some people, like Jennifer Williamson, were unbothered. She served 4 terms as a Democrat in the Oregon House, and she was the House Majority Leader. Now she does lobbying and communications in the Capitol.
I always compare it to a very busy high school where it's a community. People all have their roles. They're all different. And part of the job of an advocate in this building is understanding where everybody is on that day, what's possible. So also trying to track down what's true, what's not, what the most recent rumor is, what somebody might be upset about. If you've got an opponent to your bill, what they're saying, and trying to figure out where people are at. So it's very frenetic.
Like Lauren, Jennifer Williamson remembers a time when Oregon politics felt less divisive.
I mean, there's only a handful of people who are here with me in 2019. Yeah. And the personalities are very different. So it's just the turnover is a lot. And they don't have the same kind of relationships, I think, that we had. Because we just spent every lunch hour together. We spent, lots of time together. Like, I'm still really close with Mike McLean. And he was the Republican leader when I was the Democratic leader. And so we get along really well. And every time I'm in Eastern Oregon, we go out for a beer and hang out. And I really value our friendship. And I just don't know if the relationships have had a chance to develop in the same way. But hopefully they will now that the building's open.
Towards the end of the day, the governor was holding an open house in her office on the 2nd floor. It was the first time people had been invited back into that space in years. Lawmakers, lobbyists, staffers, and press were all packed in together, working the room. And not surprisingly, many of them did not want to talk into my microphone. I did manage to find someone who gave me a smile instead of averting their eyes when I approached.
Yeah, I'm State Treasurer Elizabeth Snyder.
The treasurer told me that, like a lot of people, she's really happy to be back in the building. I asked her if she has a favorite feature that she was happy to see again.
Well, selfishly, I'm very excited in our office because we have the vault, which was the original vault that was put into the building when it was built in the late 30s. And it's because people used to pay their taxes in cash. And we would store cash there until we got it into the bank. And now, of course, it's just ceremonial. We have a little museum in there. But it's kind of fun to see that piece of history.
She told me that her office was actually holding a similar open house type gathering that afternoon.
Well, and your reception's competing with the governor's reception, though. That's a bummer.
Well, we actually scheduled our first, with all due respect to the governor's team, and we started earlier in the afternoon, so we had a pretty good turnout also.
Before she was state treasurer, she was a lawmaker. And I asked her about what it's like to serve a different role in the session.
You know, one of the things that I love about my team at Treasury is that we provide a lot of technical expertise. So there are bills this year that are not our bills, but that could have a real impact on Treasury. And so we've been very involved with those. So it's very interesting to be more on the technical advice side and to understand that it's not our decision fundamentally anymore what passes or doesn't pass, but it is our responsibility to provide the highest quality technical advice we can and to make it clear what the ramifications of certain pieces of legislation could be.
Yeah, that sounds like it might be kind of freeing to not have to.
I loved being in the Senate, and I'm really happy to be state treasurer now.
It's interesting to me that there are so many people who return to the Capitol even when they change jobs. That includes Lauren. As we were getting ready to head back to Portland, I asked her if there's such a thing as a typical day for her during the session.
I think that the days are typical in the sense that you know that you're going to be tuning into committees and there's going to be a House and a Senate floor session, and there are certain things that you can count on. But what's exciting about it is all the unknowns, which are also pretty much every day that you're going to run into someone, you're going to have a conversation, you don't know what to expect from those conversations. Maybe you'll get a great story that you weren't anticipating or some insight that you weren't prepared for. Or like earlier this week, the Republicans boycotted the session for an afternoon. We didn't really see that coming. It's a little political hijinks. So yeah, no, in some senses it's typical, but there's also, what makes it fun are the unknowns.
I have to admire the way people in Salem seem to embrace this idea that uncertainty can be exciting and even hopeful. Every year, lawmakers propose bills that may or may not end up passing, and people go to the Capitol to testify about causes they care about. When they don't get the outcome they're looking for, they come back and try again in the next session. And our reporters keep coming back too, so that everyone in the state can keep up with what lawmakers are doing.
I probably talked to 20 people yesterday. At the end of the day, I got home and I was just like, please, I can't talk to anyone.
You can read full coverage of the 2026 legislative session and all the great political coverage from Lauren Dake and the rest of the OPB politics team at opb.org. Thank you for listening to The Evergreen, a podcast from OPB. Julie Sabatier produced this episode, and our technical director is Stephen Cray. He also mixed the episode. The OPB podcast team also includes Mia Estrada and Sage Van Wing. Julie Sabatier and Lauren Dake did the interviews you heard. The music in this episode is from Audio Network. And hey, if you've got a question for us, don't hesitate to reach out. Email us at theevergreen@opb.org. I'm Jen Chavez. Catch you later.
Is everybody back up in the building? Is everybody back up in the building? It's been a minute, tell me how you're healing. 'Cause I'm about to get into my feelings.